Welcome to KJTV for your greatest news and programs. I'm glad you're here to listen to wonderful program coming to you. And please don't forget to subscribe or give us thumbs up. Thank you for watching. Well, welcome, gentlemen, to KJTV. Today we continue with our conversation with our panelists, and I will give each a minute to introduce himself. And I will start, so you will say who you are, what you do, and how old you are. Okay, let's start with Fafa.
My name is Unti Fafa Yakor. Everybody calls me Fafa. I come from Ghana. I've been in Minneapolis for a decade or so now. I work with Wells Fargo in the corporate trust division. I do lots of work with strategic transactions and also regulatory reporting. I'm very passionate about Africa and all the development issues around Africa, and I'm very happy to contribute today.
Thank you. Ezekiel.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. My name is Ezekiel Agbosu. I work for Canadian Pacific Railroad. I'm in a corporation. I'm a real estate specialist, and where I work on acquisition of a rail line and sale of a real property. I manage lease and license portfolio with the railroad, Canadian Railroad. I moved to Minneapolis about, same Fafa, 10 years or 15 years, 12 years ago. And I've been here so far.
Okay.
I like African development, and I'll be happy to contribute with my knowledge and understanding about this topic.
Okay, good. Jimmy.
Okay, yeah, same as my co-speakers here. My name is Jimmy Nuchunda, born and raised in Tanzania, really at the western part of the country, a small town called Rulenge. I've been in America for about 10 years, a little bit over 10 years, came here for college and stayed after. I work with Deloitte & Touche in the mergers and acquisition consulting group. I help companies buy and sell businesses at the prime time. I'm very, very passionate about African development, and I enjoy these kind of discussions.
Okay, welcome, gentlemen. I can see that is the Diaspora Youth. If you came recently, and I know you came through different ways, and it has always been a great topic to ask about who is the African diaspora. Many people divine the African diaspora in various ways, but the African diaspora are people who are living outside Africa, who are connected to Africa, as one scholar said. We have different types. We have those who are born in the soil, whose umbilical cord are in Africa, and they are also of blood. But we also have some who are of blood, but their umbilical is somewhere else. They are still the diaspora. And so we can classify diaspora. So many people have come up, but they are the people who are originally either from Africa or they have a connection to Africa. I know you have all divinations, but our focus today is the role of the diaspora African youth. And you are here as people who are the youth who we are going to leave Africa with. And I would like to start first. How has your being in the diaspora benefited Africa right now? So, Ezekiel.
Thank you again for giving me the opportunity. First, you lay out the boundary clearly for the Diaspora Map. There's some youth diaspora that are born here. There's some that left Africa by their own will, and some who left due to some contingency they have in Africa. We are here today to talk about us as a diaspora, living outside of Africa, how we contributing to Africa. In my own personal experience, I think my contribution in terms of advice, being resourceful for my small community, that is, I know or that know me, that's how I'm helping individual in a micro level now. But African diaspora as a general is a big asset for Africa. When we take a dynamic of macroeconomics of remittance that, you know, African youth are sending back to Africa. When we think about the skill, the level of skill that African youth are getting abroad from education, from trainings, and bringing back, contributing back to Africa, is beneficial to Africa in terms of development. And I will just summarize that in one word, say that they have positive externality effects on African development.
Okay. Fafa.
Yes. I think Ezekiel said quite a bit on the topic, and I agree with him. I think from where we sit today, personally, you know, as an individual, the contributions are really very localized, if you may. So, you know, you are supporting family, you are helping friends, open businesses. I think for the vast majority of people in the diaspora, that's probably the bulk of what we do. But one of the key aspects of the diaspora is that we have seen what is possible. Okay, we've seen what is possible in other countries. We've seen that it's normal to have electricity that doesn't go out. You know, it's normal to turn on the taps and have water run, you know, and to be able to see that and to be able to articulate that, I think is very useful for the development of Africa. Of course, it would take some time for us personally, you know, to get to the point where that can become impact the policy agenda of the continent. But in the meantime, we are being exposed to, you know, various systems. We are being exposed to various ways of managing an economy, you know, of managing the state, of understanding all of the issues that come into play. And I mean, Africa will definitely be the beneficiary of that.
Okay, thank you. Jimmy?
Yep, same here. I want to say that basically some of the contributions that we have made so far would be one, basically the economic contribution. I was looking at some statistics, and it appears that as of 2020, about 40 billion of USD dollars was sent from the globe back to Africa by the diaspora. That's a huge economic contribution to our continent. So that's the macro level. At the micro level, then obviously there's this financial help that we provide back to our families that in return obviously help to stimulate businesses in our local villages for, I mean, some of us who come from the villages. That's one. Two, for me, at least I'm fortunate politically. I have some connections, and I was able to when I go home every year, I'm able to meet with some politicians and be able to discuss some of my views and provide some advice to what things can be done to help the economic empowerment of the poor people and the other social economic development activities. So I want to say those are the two main things that I've been able to contribute back to my motherland.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, how are you, maybe to give an example, like the people who came here a long time ago, they came, got education, they went back because maybe they were business opportunities. But as youths right now, why is it that most of you get education in the West, you want to work in the West, you don't want to go home and work and help the government? Fafa.
I think it's very different times culturally. I think maybe in the generation of our forebears, people definitely felt that sense of duty to their country. It may be because they had a closer proximity to the generation that led us to independence, and so some of that sense of duty filtered down. As it's proceeded to our generation, it's kind of thinned out a bit, and I think that accounts for some of that antipathy towards going back or towards going to help the government. But that being said, I would say that in the last 4 or 5 years, there's been a huge movement, a huge move back to Africa movement. My own brother, who used to work as a consultant here, moved back home last year as part of all of that exodus. So I think that there are probably two sides of the story, and I think that current movement will provide impetus for a lot of us to move back and contribute. So
okay, Jimmy.
Yeah, I do agree. I think it's a good question. I want to say a very big percentage of people who come here to school end up trying to stay here and find opportunities in America. I think it's two groups of people. There are the well-to-do groups of people who come here. They get their schools. The majority of those end up actually going back because they're well connected. They go back, they find positions in government, or they go and run their parents' businesses. Then there are the peasants, the farmers' children, right? The majority of us who come here, and when you go back home, really you have no connections, right? You are valued here a lot, and the majority of us, I can speak for the people on this show, at least Fafa and Ezekiel, who we were working with Big Fours. We were recruited heavily from college. So you are still a kid, you're in college, there's an employment in Africa, and here comes the Big Four company offers you a full-time employment when you are still a junior in college. Right? Hey, when you graduate, you have a full-time offer. At that point, all your ideas and dreams of going back to Africa fade at that point.
Okay.
So I think there is a lot of things need to be cleared back home where people will be given opportunities based on their qualifications as opposed to who I know before people can happily be able to move back with the intentions to help the government or help their countries.
Okay. Ezekiel, what do you say about that?
I mean, I totally agree with my 4 panelists. But I want to add a couple of things. The reason why a lot of people stay is because they have advantage, absolute advantage in the country, the host country. The example is that when you get a certain level of skill, but beside connection and knowing, other people, you take an example of a medical doctor who get a certain skill, but they can transfer that and do it there. They will feel very constrained to use it here. And also they find that when they get in the system here, they have opportunity of a growth. So that become a constraint of them, going back. And also there is a benefit package that also attract the skilled worker. And finding that, the benefit that the person at the end of the day finish the training, hard work, day and night, the benefit that they're offering him in a host country is way above whatever the patriotism, is going. It feels good. Everybody to be patriotic and say, hey, I'm going to go back and help my country. But at the end of the day, you're gonna compare what you're bringing to your family also and the contribution to the country. That aspect of it. And the political reason also are some of the reasons that kick some people out. The political reason where some people are very, constrained because they speak out about certain topic and then they can't go back or they can't expose themselves anymore. And some people end up, spending a lot of time abroad. even though they have a skill, they have a know-how and all the necessary skill that they can transfer to Africa.
Okay. Now, how has your country of origin maintained the engagement of the diaspora? How does it make the engagement with the diaspora? For example, in your own country. So here, Jimmy, how has your country in Tanzania tried to engage the diaspora?
That's I'm glad you brought up that point, because unfortunately in Tanzania, it's a great country. I love the country. Unfortunately, the mindset, the politicians' mindset, are anti-diaspora, 100%. Tanzania is one of the few countries that don't have dual citizenship. They do not allow dual citizenship. So the minute you take American citizenship or UK citizenship, you automatically forfeit your Tanzanian citizenship. A lot of countries, I know Kenya has dual citizenship, which allows people to freely move back and forth. Tanzanians have 100% refused to do that. For some historical reasons, some I don't understand, and the constitution would need to be changed to allow for dual citizenship. So that's kind of anti-diaspora mindset, because most people who are in the UK or in America who do not have the ambition to go back will easily take the US passport and drop the Tanzanian passport, right? Because it's really easy to go back. With an American passport, you can just get on a plane and get your visa at the airport, right? When you are there getting in.
Okay.
But with the Tanzanian passport, obviously it's hard to get it back here. So a lot of people who have no future ambitions, they just drop it. Now, the minute you drop the Tanzanian citizenship, obviously you cannot own land. You cannot do a lot of things back home. So I want to say that there's a lot of barriers that governments need to clear to really try to utilize the diaspora to their benefits, because there's a lot of economic and social development impact that can be brought by the diaspora. So that, in brief, that's the current situation in Tanzania, and I'm curious to hear the situation in Togo and Ghana.
Okay, Ezekiel, how about Togo?
Well, for Togo, they actually allowed a dual citizenship, that one, but there is a lack of engagement, and so many years the diaspora was labeled, even youth diaspora was labeled as a kind of opposition of the government, and people who flee away, who leave the government, they are the one who instigates, awareness and all that. But I would say just recently, last 4 years, that they realized that after a couple of reports of World Bank and World Financial Bank, and then they start realizing that they can actually capitalize on diaspora as an asset instead of seeing it as a constraint. And so in the last government, they opened a diaspora ministry, and this diaspora ministry, it just exists as a branding, but inside is still a nepotism and all that bubble inside. So I would say the idea, the beginning embryo of an idea is coming there, but using any follow-up, engagement, support, anything like that, that we can see. And this is one tricky thing that happened in Togo that actually intrigued a lot of people, is that they manage to, I would say, themselves divide the diaspora into a couple groups, I would say. They have a diaspora that are diplomatic diaspora that they send here as ambassadors, the representative of international fund, international organization that came directly from themselves. They consider that as a diaspora. And those that emigrated from Togo because they have, life challenges and all that. And those that emigrated from Togo because, they have political challenges, those that stay outside after their school that fail from the government institutional scholarships, then those people are being left behind to be considered in their system. So that's how the relationship between the diaspora and Togo is being seen as now.
Okay. Well, that's good. Fafa, how about Ghana? How is it engaging with the diaspora?
So in Ghana, we also have the dual citizenship. I think probably Ghana probably does better based on what I've heard from Tanzania and Togo. With the diaspora engagement, we have dual citizenship. I think Ghana has made a very concerted effort to, I think 2 years ago, we had a huge event called the Year of the Return, which saw lots of people come to Ghana, lots of not just Ghanaians abroad, but African Americans. It's very telling that you define diaspora at the beginning of this conversation very broadly. So going by that definition, we had Ghana was a riot in Ghana with all the people who arrived. So on that score, we are doing decently. I think that there's obviously still work to be done because it isn't a kind of strategic engagement, where you are really trying to court, people to bring back companies or, bring back capital. There's still work to be done in a way that can harness all of the resources of Ghanaians abroad and make. Right now, it seems like when Ghanaians, actually impact the economy positively, either by opening a business or bringing a company that they work with, it's really on their own initiative. Okay, it's really on their own initiative. And when they go home, they still kind of clash with the typical, cultural barriers, the nepotism, the red tape, the bureaucracy. So you really have to be determined, to actually, make an impact. So that's an area that will need to be improved. But overall, I think the outlook is positive for Ghana. So
okay, that is very good. Now, Jimmy in Tanzania, you don't really lose your citizenship when you acquire citizenship of another country, but it's only that sometimes people misinterpret the constitution. Really, you cannot lose citizenship which you acquired by birth, unless the country where you are acquiring citizenship requires you to renounce your other citizenship before you can take that citizenship. The country of Kenya, we have had a constitution from independence, which gives automatic citizenship if you are born in Kenya or your parents are Kenyan. But people were using it wrong. Right now, even Kenya is not that friendly to the diaspora because, one, there are many cases where people have tried to leave the diaspora to take senior appointments in Kenya. And then actually, like there is a lady who was born here, yes, a Kenyan father, and was appointed an ambassador to South Korea. The president appointed him. Parliament said that he would have to renounce her American citizenship, something she acquired through birth. She was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So she could not. Constitutionally, it went to court. The case was thrown out. So he went ahead to report, but the parliament is still wanting to have him to have abroad back. So everybody bends the law, and that is where actually the diaspora can help. I know we had challenges, and it was put in the constitution that you can have dual citizenship. But really, the only thing is that as diaspora youth, those are some of the things you need to help in interpreting people. Politicians use the constitution to benefit themselves. So, Jimmy, I would want you to look at the Tanzanian constitution clearly and see whether it really prohibits that.
I was actually, when you are talking, I was also trying to do some Google search on the Tanzanian constitution on dual citizenship, and it clearly says the minute you get multiple nationality citizenship, you automatically lose Tanzanian citizenship unless you renounce all other citizenships. So it's very clear in our constitution.
Oh, okay.
The minute you get,
I think that is more clear. Then it's very unfriendly.
Yes, it's very unfriendly. Yep.
Okay, you see now, hey, that is the most strict. I didn't know it was that strict.
Yeah. And I mean, I tried to do some research on this, and I mean, a lot of diaspora groups have tried to engage the government to try to change the constitution, and they haven't, because the genesis of this comes with the Nyerere leadership, when we had a lot of Indians back during the independence, and I think the government then, the freedom fighters back then, were worried about, you know, people just being dual citizenship between India and Tanzania and taking all the properties from you know, from Tanzania and shifting it back to India. You know, so they're like, well, you can only be a citizen of one nation, right? So if you are Indian, you have to renounce your Indian citizenship to be a Tanzanian citizen. That way you cannot misappropriate all the resources from Tanzania to the other country and vice versa. So really, I think that's where it all came in back in the independence. But as we know, it's really hard to change the constitution, and it's still there. And until today, I think a lot of people are suffering. And probably that's part of the reason I really can't get the American citizenship.
But recently, you had a constitutional change. Was it 2010, or there was some change in the constitution?
There was discussion about changing the constitution, but they never went through. When Magufuli took power, he said, "Forget about the constitution. That's not important." So it never moved forward.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's strange worry. That is Africa. Now, yes. I don't know how, you know, the African Union, they discussed this and they then put Africa in the regions. They got the southern region, central region, the western region, the eastern region. And then there was this nation afloat. They have the diaspora region. I don't know how much do you understand how is African Union trying to engage the diaspora? I don't know if you have heard about it, that we have a diaspora region among the African Union. An idea? Ezekiel, have you heard about that?
Yes, I heard about diaspora region that African Union is named 6th region of Africa, because they have North, West, Central, East, and South. So the 6th region is outside, and which is a diaspora. I think this is a great idea. So that is signifying that we have a region that is moving Africa beyond the physical boundary of the the border that we have, which we really need if you want to have United States of Africa. So we can have United States of Africa where somebody goes from Togo to Ghana, you have to pay, and before you move your cassava from Ghana to Togo, you have to do this and be checked and maybe have a declaration of minister and that of Department of Vegetation, and have to check all that. Cassava is cassava everywhere. And we move it from here to Iowa without anybody even seeing.
Yeah, we weren't even thinking.
But no, let's come for the 6th region that we're talking about. It will be a great idea if they have it as a 6th region. I mean, that would be like virtual imaginary region just to define a diaspora. But everybody have to be inclusive and take a participating, engage or participating in a diaspora, have to engage in that. So what I am seeing now is that they have that diaspora, that including certain part of a Caribbean country also that have, everybody that look like, I don't know if I can say it here, but, so they're including Caribbean, everybody who identify themselves as African descent, they are included in that. And then they're trying to have a president of a diaspora. So it becomes just a diplomatic map they draw up there. But the goal is for African as an inclusive. I don't see it coming yet.
Okay. How about you, Fafa?
I haven't heard about it, which maybe is very telling, because that means maybe the engagement is not as extensive. But I personally am not aware of it. But it's very positive. Africa, we have a very unique history and a unique profile, and there are millions of Africans abroad from their own volition or involuntarily abroad. Yeah. And so to be able to kind of include them in that definition and bring them into the fold, I think that's very positive. Going to Ezekiel's point, a lot of times we go through these cycles where we hear very positive things from the African Union. They are implementing a global African passport, or they are thinking of a global African currency, and it's very positive, and the direction is right. But then when it comes to the implementation, things tend to falter. So I think if it can be properly implemented, and I mean right now, with technology, it shouldn't be that hard to develop a database of all people in the diaspora. There are millions of ways to cheaply engage all of the Africans abroad. So I think that the real test will come when you look at the implementation of that policy.
Okay. Jimmy, have you heard about the African Union Diaspora region?
No, same as Fafa. Unfortunately, I have not, which also tells you that maybe there's more work to be done by the African Union Diaspora agent to reach out to us.
Yeah, maybe we had somebody who was so passionate about it. The former ambassador to US from African Union, Mr. Giambori. Giambori is from Ghana, I think.
Oh, really?
Originally he's from Zimbabwe, but he's married to Ghana.
I see.
He's a Ghanaian now.
The Zimbabweans have there's history there. Mugabe was married to a Ghanaian woman too, so.
Just everywhere. So
now, as the youth, there's something I wanted to show you. I wanted to share the screen. I want you to look at it. I think it's a window. Are you seeing it?
No.
You don't see the screen?
No.
No, not yet. No.
Okay. Let me see here. Do you see it?
Something is coming up.
There we go.
Do you see that remittance, annual remittance? Are you seeing that?
You've seen image and then a lot of PowerPoint on the left or right side of it.
So it's not.
I don't know if you are sharing the right screen. Maybe you need to.
What? It's not. Oh no.
Technology troubles, huh?
Am I having trouble with it? Is it not showing? Okay. No. I don't know. Maybe let me take it off. So I don't know why it's not showing. So I was trying to show you how remittances, the amount of money going to the continent of Africa, billions of money from the diaspora, even if people are selling for various projects, those people who are doing the projects, those who are helping pay school fees. Remember, that is direct foreign exchange, which goes to a country. It's not money from China, which needs to be repaid back with interest. Remember, we were talking about loans.
Yep.
This is billions of money which goes to Africa from the diaspora. Now, you as youths, do you think is there a better way we can do this transfer of money to Africa? Maybe when it can be more beneficial than we are doing here. Any creative ideas of transferring this money so that they can add value to Africa? Jimmy.
Yeah, I'll say, I think, unfortunately, we were not able to see your statistics, but the quick statistics that I looked at, it was about 40 billion of cash, USD cash coming from diaspora across the world going back to the African continent. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of, like you said, it's a direct foreign investment coming from Africans to Africans. And it's for multiple purposes, There's some of it, I want to say maybe, I don't know what percentage, is really to help the parents, the brothers and the sisters in school and normal living activities. But the majority of it is actually going to investment. A lot of diaspora people have real estate projects going on in Africa, which they're building apartments and buildings. Those are things that eventually turn around and pay taxes through rent or income and all that stuff. A lot of African diaspora actually a lot of people I talk to, they all strive to start businesses. You talk to a lot of the Somalis, almost every Somali has a business going on back in their home country, right? They are investing back home in creating businesses, creating employment. So all those are really positive impacts that come from the diaspora investment. In terms of transferring, I want to say when we came here back in 2010, I mean, before and 10 years ago, we had to rely on Western Union, which was really hard to reach to your parents in the village, right? But now with the technology and development, you have things like Wave, which money can get to your grandparents in the village without any issues. So technology also has really contributed to this free movement of cash from the diaspora to the Africa. So I think we are at a better place in terms of technology and how you can move money back home. And the purpose of it is good. I think it does contribute to the positive development of African economy.
Okay. Fafa, do you think there's a better way you can do it?
Well, I think that in terms of the transactional aspect of it, I don't know that there's a better way than what we have now. I'm going back to Jimmy's point about all of the various apps that have been developed, although a lot of them are developed by people in the West. But you know, I don't think that you can top it. I don't know that you can top just creating a transaction and sending money directly to mobile money in Ghana in like 2 seconds. You know, but I think what you are probably asking is a more general conceptual question of if we are all sending $40 billion home, is there a way that can be structured to have a more general impact on the economy? And I would say for sure, I think so, because at a scale of $40 billion, of course, there's going to be some parts of that which is never going to change or go away, right? So within that 40 billion is money when your father is sick, okay? And I mean, you're not going to remove that and then say, let me contribute to building Ghana's first, manufacturing plant or something, right? But I think all of us here, we are especially for Africans abroad in the middle class, you have money in your 401k, you have your own savings, you are looking for opportunities to invest. And the interesting thing is because of the risks in Africa, the rewards are also very high, right? I mean, we are all like finance people, so we know the kind of margins that companies have in the US. In Africa, you can generate margins 4-fold, 5-fold, easy. If only some of that investment can be structured properly and deployed within the African economy. So the problem here is the fundamental problem in Africa overall, which that our system, when foreigners are trying to do things like this, we come against our system, and the system does not budge. Okay, so you still have to go through the hoops to register a business. You buy land and tomorrow someone shows up and says the land is his. Then you have to spend 2 years in court fighting, and then they bribe the judge, and then you lose the case. I mean, you cannot convince people to take money out or take 100 grand out of their 401k and go and invest when the risks are this high. So I think, governments can step in and maybe, in the 80s and 90s, the Asians did this quite a bit, where they had, industrial zones, they had, development zones where, it's kind of like the rules are enforced more stringently in those zones. They make sure that electricity is available. They do things like that. It's kind of, I mean, you can quibble about whether it's fair to the general population, but the consequence was that they were able to build factories in those zones that actually worked, because you could guarantee constant electricity, you could guarantee constant access to water, and that, so there could be some opportunities here where maybe governments can create some zones like that, where, you elevate the functioning of the laws of the country. If I buy land in that zone, I'm buying directly from the government. I know that nobody is going to come and harass me, 2 months from now, that sort of thing. And if you could create a structure like that, it may be possible to have like private equity, African private equity firms that, collate a bunch of resources from people this side and deploys it strategically within the African economy. So,
okay, thank you. How about yours again? An idea?
I think this remittance, like Jimmy said, is I was looking at the statistics here. It's more than 40 billion, transferring from abroad to Africa. So the question is, why are they transferring a lot of money like that? Imagine the same basic need that a human being need. If that was satisfied through a fair and trusted system in Africa, maybe diaspora will shift that money into a different investment. So that's where the problem is. So sometimes there's a two-way I see this. It's said that you can be sitting on a diamond and still be poor. If you don't know the value of the diamond, you will be sleeping on a diamond and still be poor.
Yeah.
We have more than 40 billion that we are sending in Africa, but Africa is still poor. Why? The question comes down to first our current government, our current leaders acknowledging the value of a diaspora in their economic system and making a clear structural system to harness that money. That's one. And second, identify that there is a need for their own people that diaspora is trying to tap into to help with, that they need to solve that problem so that the diaspora fund can be directed toward a positive return investment. So as far as there isn't any alternative where we can put that money into that is known, we will be helping those diaspora. Diaspora will be helping people with need today, and Africa will still be poor tomorrow and generation to generation. So I will say that Diaspora Africa is sending a lot of money there, but what is happening actually is that we are not sending the money to invest like a positive, productive, revenue generating investment. Now most of them are going to revenue generating investment. A few of a diaspora know about those how do you call it, those markets that they are using, and which is very strictly for international diaspora that are working international, like monetary fund. They have that credibility. Those people are in the market, equity fund. Those are who can invest. They have their certification. It's through very tight institution, and that those are people can invest some money from diaspora, and those investments can be productive. For a general population diaspora like you and I and other people, we can also contribute for development if instead of us using our money to satisfy somebody's need for a hospital, somebody's need for water, somebody's need for a road, fill up a gap, a hole in somewhere. If those things are satisfied properly, our money now, the government will come to us and give us orientation where are the productive area where we can invest. For instance, there is some investment that are very obsolete, that are not productive, that the diaspora people are doing. Like Jimmy said, some people are in diaspora building a very big mansion in a village, a big mansion in Africa, and hoping that somebody will rent that and they can get money so they can capitalize on it. And it turns out that the social environment make people, they are poor, or there is an instability making them not even can rent that, and that apartment or that money, construction is staying there for decades without being utilized or getting a return on it. So it's a big risk that the diaspora individual are taking individually. So imagine that the government identified that as a good resources, and they get that money and they put it in the diaspora bond or diaspora debt certificate, which is guaranteed intergenerationally. It can give a return of 7 or 5%, like Fafa said, a higher return. We know that if you put $100,000 in your 401k here, it's giving you 3% or 5%. But when you put that 100,000 in a government debt certificate in Africa, it's giving you 10%, 15%. Who wouldn't do that? And we are guaranteed that that return will be there. When you retire, you can go do it. So that's the problem. The diaspora is helping, is putting a lot of money there, but the money is not being channeled to help being productive to the African as it is, even though they are sitting on that diamond, which is African.
Now, it looks like the youth, you don't want to go back to Africa. You know, some countries have benefited from utilizing their diaspora, like China. China had a good engagement with the diaspora. They made them have some patriotic feelings when they go home. And then they also created very generous investment packages, which actually made them transfer a lot of money to China. Equally, India has done the same. Malaysia, as most of the Asian countries, actually, they have attracted the people to invest back in Kenya. I mean, not in Kenya, but Africa. And now, like you, the youth, you have experience, corporate experience in the West. And of course, that's what we call brain drain. How can we turn from brain drain to brain trust? We want you to bring this experience back home, take up leadership positions. But unfortunately, they say some of you go there, when you go to leadership, you become even worse than the people there in terms of corruption. But now, like, is it hard? Like, we train people to be engineers. Here, you see, if you become an engineer, you will work in an engineering field and you get experience. Each African country, universities have trained engineers, civil engineers. But we never hear them have jobs that they do. They make even a small bridge in your local village is made by China. So is there a way, like youth, you can be able to transfer those skills, start companies, so instead of Chinese building those bridges, you finish? What's your take on that? I mean, because this continent is going to be yours. Some of the people are getting old. They are getting away by natural. You are not going to take them away, but they will go away. But the country will be yours. So you need to start from here. Is it hard to start companies which are professional? You put in money, and then you can also bid for a contract to build a railway from Lome to Mombasa. Is it possible?
Yes, it is possible.
Yeah.
Yes, it's possible. The first thing that I think we should do is to be able to identify the skilled workers. Okay, and also the government engage the diaspora about their transparent idea or desire to engage the diaspora. And then give a patriotic incentive to those citizens. I don't want to call them a diaspora, but those foreign, citizens abroad. If you look at an embassy of America, for instance, in Kenya or Ghana, they engage their citizens. Once you're traveling from here, they will be like, if you come to diaspora, sign up here in case you have any emergency, we will come get you. In case there is a rain today, you sign up for that website, there is a rain today, they will text you. Even if there is a big accident, you get an email. So that it's telling you there is a transparency. You are aware. You feel certain nowhere secure. Since I came to America here, I never even know there is an embassy of Africa, Togo in America. Embassy is for diplomatic, government, very secure thing. The embassy is not for people. So you have to engage the people first. Be open and engage the people. That's one. So those are small things that engage the people. For instance, if a government put in their obligation to put a patriotic engagement to foreign citizens to come to invest in Africa, and they feel secure, trusted, and there's a big transparency. Transparency. Yes, people would like to put their fund into something like that. But as far as we're talking like that we want you to come and invest, and then people come to the country, they are finding a very constraint in a move around. you know, just to meet with just a local mayor, you have to wait a week, and there's no phone call. Then how will you, you know, put your money into something like that? A simple thing. If you organize a small event, you will be labeled as the bad person. You know, the information is come across differently. So those are the small things that need to be clear to engage the diaspora. Because like Fafa said at the beginning, we have witnessed stuff here. We have seen that you can have a road, a clear road passed in front of your house too. You can also have a tap of water in your house too. Not just the top 1%, top 5%. I mentioned that it's because now, if you witness that, you have lived that yourself, and you go to Africa and you see certain difference, a big gap, you say, why is that gonna be like that? It's a frustrating, and that frustration make you tighten up your pocket of sending $1 to somebody else, and that time it make it harder or longer for Africa to harness that development from its own diaspora.
Okay. Fava, you have any comment?
Yes. So I think I of course agree with Ezekiel. I think maybe it's a question of the right time and the right opportunity. You know, I think, you know, all of us, I think when I was in college, you know, we were very young and idealistic, you know, going back to, I think what Jimmy alluded to this, we had, you know, visions of, well, you know, we can go back home and help and, you know, help to solve some of the problems in Africa. And I have some friends who went home, you know, right after college or maybe a couple of years after college. And the general, I can tell you that 90% of them are back. You know, the general experience is that you go, you slave away at some project for 2 years, you're frustrated by the system, and then you come back. And so I think again, we come against the system, and the system does not budge. You know, and so in a way, I think for most, you know, with that being said, like I said, there is a move back movement, right? And there are people who are moving back, especially people who are taking advantage of like the technology, YouTube. You know, people are doing really interesting things and making progress, you know. But the key thing here is, can I move back and still kind of maintain your standard of living? I mean, we have to be honest about these things. You have lived a certain kind of life, and are you really willing to, you know, not have that standard of living when you go home? And so the only way where this works is you get a good enough opportunity that kind of still gives you that lifestyle. Number one. Number two is, well, a lot of us come from poor backgrounds, you know. Maybe Ezekiel comes from the diplomatic.
It doesn't sound like one.
He's very from the previous speech. He doesn't sound like that.
A lot of us come from poor backgrounds, and so it's like, I think for most Africans, when you come from a background like that and you understand what real need and want is, you want to make sure that you are absolutely secure before you take a huge leap into the unknown. You know, it's like there is a sense that, well, you are quite lucky to have gotten this opportunity to come study abroad and get a job, and you know that the whole village is riding on your success. You know, and you don't take gambles, you know, by going back home when you are not yet secure. So I mean, I suspect that a lot of us are probably going to move back maybe in our 40s, or you know, there's going to come a time when you feel that, okay, like you have established, you have gained a lot of experience, you have established yourself, you have your savings, your investments, wherever they are, and you know that there is a certain floor below which you cannot fall. And then now you may be willing to take the big plunge. And I think that's actually positive, because in a way, you know, sometimes I think when we are young, there is an assumption that, you know, we've studied abroad, we are very well educated, we can just waltz into Africa and then solve all of the problems overnight, and then, you know, everything will be good. But this is not how it works. There are entrenched interests. You almost have to have respect and humility for the scale of the problems. So if you are in your 20s, I mean, you're not going to go to your country and make a real meaningful change. You know, in general, right? Of course, maybe you are like you are the Einstein of our generation, and so maybe you go and make radical change at that age. But I think all of us have a sense of humility and respect for the scale of the problem that needs to be solved, and we are just gathering more and more experience, gathering more and more capital, and I think at the right time and with the right opportunities, we will move back. So
okay, good, Jimmy.
Yeah, I don't think I can beat the passion that Ezekiel brought to this because he was so passionate. I feel like if we made Ezekiel the president of Togo, we could see development changes in 5 years. Yeah, I do agree overall with everybody here. I think it's just the bureaucracy in Africa that makes it really hard for most of the diaspora to invest back home or even to move back home.
Yeah, supposing, I know we complain about leadership, but we have to change it from somewhere. Now, let us assume you are a president of your country. For some mysterious way you are. What would you do different that will make your country grow? Fav.
Okay. I think for me, and this may sound unorthodox, but for me, the first area I would look at is the government itself, the size of the government. A lot of our countries are basically creaking under the weight of bloated bureaucracies. We have, I think Tanzania, Magufuli was famous for, identifying ghost workers and kind of trying to clean that up a little bit. But even beyond that, you have to ask yourself, if you are spending about 60% of your budget on the government, and then you spend another 20-25% on debt servicing, you are only left with about 10 to 15% for capital development. And so I think we really need to take a huge, I would take a huge look at the size of the government and shrink it radically. I may not survive, I may not survive it.
Will protect you.
I may not survive it, but if I had carte blanche, I think that the first thing to look at is the government. The next area would be our legal system. A lot of the problems that we have, a lot of the real transactional issues that prevent business from occurring is because the legal system is either dysfunctional or defunct. There's no, you don't have recourse in many situations. And it's like we have adopted this Western style legal system, but we haven't fully implemented it. And so we end up in this place where I cannot even contract with people and be assured that, they will do their work, or that if they don't do their work, I have recourse. The success of America is predicated hugely on the legal and financial system that they have constructed. People are willing to borrow billions of dollars to other people on the understanding that they will be paid.
They will pay back.
And if they are not paid, you can sue them in court. And nobody is going to take a goat to the judge's office to rule in their favor. So that, for me, I think that's very, very critical. Lots of the problems in Africa come down to the problem of law. And it's not, first of all, we will take a look at the structures that we have in place. We used to have traditional legal structures, right? We did away with all that and brought in this Western style system. And it's not, I have no issue with the system if we can implement it correctly. Okay. So that would be the other thing I would look at. The third thing will be transparency within the government. You see, where there is darkness, very nefarious things happen. So right now, I think the state of transparency within the economy is very, very low. Governments take they announce the budget, they indicate that, okay, we plan to collect maybe $10 billion in taxes. And to the citizenry, it just sounds like very big numbers.
Wow.
And you don't really understand how it all gets spent. And when you have structures like that, it encourages corruption because people can. If you pull out $1 million out of $10 billion, who is going to notice, right? So,
we wish you well. That this is another Jerry Rawlings. It looks like
Yeah,
another
I agree.
if I survive it, because I mean that you are
Jerry Rawlings survived. Jerry didn't know he could survive. That's why even he linked his family. Didn't want his children. He didn't want to be attached to his children. He thought he would die anytime, but he survived.
Well, Jerry was a military man, so you have to be very. I think to survive it, you have to be that sort of person, willing to play ball, and willing to use the military to secure yourself to the extent that you are able to.
Yeah.
And that's a very critical point, actually, because a lot of times I think people in the diaspora, maybe you go back home, you have great ideas, but you don't necessarily understand all of the entrenched interests.
Yeah.
People who are actually willing to resort to violence. People are enjoying the largesse of the state, and you are showing up trying to take it away from them. Okay, they're not going to take that line down, right? So you have to be cognizant of that because sometimes you may.
Okay. Let's stop. We are running out of time. I think our time is over.
Right,
I want you to, if you are the president of Tanzania.
Actually, it's unfortunate that I feel like that would have been the first question because I've been thinking about this for a long time since I've had those ambitions. But on top of what Fafa said, because of shortage of time, in the interest of time here, I think one thing we need to do, and I've thought about that, is really instilling the value of hard work in Africans. There is no free lunch, right? Like everything, you have to sweat for it. I go home often, and there's extreme areas that have extreme poverty, like literally like extreme poor people. But the value of hard work is, for some reason, I hesitate to say this, is not in some of our African brothers and sisters. Like you'll see people with some cultural items where people just wake up in the morning, they're sitting on the sun, and then you have this little hut, but you're not really working extremely hard. You're not spending a lot of time in the fields. You're not really like doing nothing. Like the women are the ones who are doing subsistence farming, just hand to mouth economy. I think I would use my district commissioners to force people to work. Like you have 6 hours of work a day. There's no exception. And I think you look at America, a lot of things, these roads and bridges, and you see all the dams that they have built. They were built through blood and sweat and labor. And I think we need also to do that, to take away all the elements of laziness and put forth our labor and move our continent forward. That's probably one of the things that I would add on top of what Fafa said. Okay.
How about you? Togo is a very interesting country. I think one time the president died and the vice president was in France. And they had to change a constitution so that he doesn't take over. They went to parliament. And as he was coming, he was on a plane coming to, is it Togo? Yeah.
Yes, that's
it. They blocked all the borders. The vice president had to land in Benin. He could not be. It's a very interesting country. We talk another time. So if you become a president now, what will you do different?
And all that was planned. All that you can tell that it was planned. So they try to make a Togo a hub for peace and stability. We know there is no price for peace and stability. But me, honestly, if I have a chance to be a leader of Togo in a certain way, I have an equal, not necessarily from the Hue or the president, but if I have a chance to be a president, I will first look into the current government that I took over for audit and control, and that to resanitize the system a little bit. But I will do my best to implement, like Robert Solow, the great economist of American great economist said, use his model of a growth, based on human capital. I mean, without the human capital, there is no growth. And you have to develop people, develop a culture of leadership, culture of accountability, culture of trust within the people. And all that together, we will have a growth. And then attached to that, I have a key interest to implement the value of idea. So I will have research and development department or research and development department or ministry that will work in like do their due diligence to implement the patenting of African values or African creation. Because when you create something new, it needs to be regenerated so you have a rentability on that idea creation. In America here, the only thing that make people generate more is creating ideas. They create the vaccines, they create this, they create that. And all that need to be rewarded, and that move the economy. The third one that I will look into is the land management. My country is very small in Africa, but actually big. Okay. In terms of population, in terms of everything. Land management. There is a lot of disorder that I see in that thing. And in terms of people, leadership, culture, and development, I say the merit base. The promotion and development have to be merit based, where people will be valued and reward for the work that they are doing. So added to all that my former my other panelists already said, I will say formal structure, give people an incentive of what they are doing, which is good, and tighten up the judicial system, like Fafa said, because it's very important to attract investment. Okay. And at the last, that the only topic that actually a lot of presidents don't want to tackle, and a lot of four presidents lost their life in West Africa, is the currency, having that currency dependency, and it's a big burden on. I mean, coming from West Africa, both of or three of you know what having Federal Reserve on your own is in terms of a bubble. But for us, our currency is to peg into a currency that doesn't exist anymore. Okay, it was the peg to a currency that does not exist anymore. And now that there is a lot of resistance to try to change that, but there is some key people who benefit from that currency being like that, and they don't want to change. So I will work, toward that change so that in the future we have that possibility of creating money, creating a value. Like, for instance, in the United States, they just inject more than 300 billion in economy due to a pandemic. African countries can't do that because they don't have that capacity of creating a value. They have to ask money from the Federal Reserve, from current reserve from France. That France will say, okay, due to your exchange of your raw materials, you have this dividend with my bank. You can ask for more than that. So you have to ask this percentage. So that constrained the entire country for holding. Let me give you the example simple. When COVID-19 started, Togo government, went on boost that they're going to raise, let me say, 400 million so they can come, help people. Well, they send out the email, nobody respond. No, they even talk about it. But imagine if the Togo government have a possibility of creating the money, printing. They will say like, hey, Federal Reserve, think about this. What about if we inject 10 million in this economy, in this infrastructure, and then we give this to these key people? Will they be able to be productive, and that multiplier will multiply the economy, the benefit for us? And they could have think that way, but because they don't have a control of the currency and the economy multiplier, the multiplier effect, they let it be, so they have to depend on whatever the international institutions are doing. So those are the things that, preoccupation that I have, that I will try to tackle. I have a chance.
Well, it has been a good discussion. It's our time. We had passed our time. Thank you, gentlemen. I really appreciate you coming and giving your insight. You are a very intelligent people. I wish I could have a way of making you presidents of your countries. We say good, but I wish you the best of luck. So we'll stop here today.
Welcome to KJ TV for your greatest news